Welcome to today's video where we'll be exploring a fascinating concept, a unified frequency framework that attempts to explain the fundamental physics of our universe. Don't worry, we'll break this down into simple ideas that anyone can understand. Let's start with the big idea. What if everything in the universe, and I mean everything, is actually made of waves? Not just light and sound, but also solid objects, forces, and even space itself. Think of the universe as a vast ocean, filled with different kinds of waves interacting with each other. This concept proposes a unified equation called the mass-unified frequency equation, or MUF for short. It suggests that all forces in nature, like gravity, electricity, and even the strong nuclear force, can be described by a single formula. Let's break this equation down into simple parts. Think of it as a recipe for making all forces in nature. First, we have lambda, a universal multiplier, like the main ingredient in our recipe. Next, we have x and y, which represent the charges of the interacting objects. These could be electric charges or masses. Then we divide by r squared, where r is the distance between the objects, just like how forces get weaker the further apart things are. Finally, we have this frequency function that acts like an on-off switch, determining when a force is active based on its frequency. Let's look more closely at this frequency switch. It's actually very simple. Below a certain frequency threshold, the force equals 0. Above that threshold, the force is fully on. Visually, it looks like this, a simple step function that turns on at a specific frequency. Now, let's see how this unified formula works for different forces. For electric forces, the charges are actual electric charges, and the formula gives us Coulomb's law, the familiar equation for electric force. For gravity, the charges are masses, and we get Newton's law of gravitation, which describes how objects attract each other. The strong nuclear force, which holds atomic nuclei together, works at extremely high frequencies, explaining why it only acts at very short distances. One of the most fascinating ideas in this framework is that mass itself might be just a special kind of localized wave pattern. Imagine dropping a stone in water. It creates ripples that move outward. Now, imagine those ripples somehow getting trapped in a tiny region, vibrating in place. This framework suggests that particles like electrons, protons, and neutrons might actually be incredibly intense, high-frequency standing waves. This leads to a new way of understanding Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared. If mass is really just trapped waves, then its energy would be proportional to its frequency. The speed of light squared, c superscript 2, becomes a conversion factor that relates the energy of these waves to what we measure as mass. Another key idea in this framework is that the movement of charges is the ultimate source of all energy in the universe. We already know that accelerating charges create light. But what about heat? At the molecular level, heat is just atoms vibrating faster, and atoms contain charges. Even sound waves could be seen as collective movements of charged particles in a medium. And friction, which generates heat, involves electromagnetic interactions between surface atoms. One interesting insight from this framework is about our limited view of the electromagnetic spectrum. We can only detect a tiny fraction of all possible frequencies, mainly visible light, radio waves, and some infrared. This might explain wave-particle duality. Particles appear as either waves or particles depending on how we observe them, because we're only seeing part of their full nature. It even suggests that dark matter and dark energy might just be effects from frequencies we can't yet detect. So to summarize this unified frequency framework, everything in the universe could be made of waves at different frequencies. A single formula might describe all forces in nature. Mass itself might just be trapped wave energy. All energy ultimately comes from moving charges, and our limited perception explains mysteries like wave-particle duality. While this is just a theoretical framework, it offers an intriguing new way to think about how the universe works.